Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. In today's video, I'll be turning my attention to the interior of the S10 for one of the more significant upgrades I've had planned for the truck. I'll be doing a custom installation of a set of full power leather bucket seats. In keeping with the whole Restomod mindset, I didn't want to just restore the interior back to OE spec. It's actually really nice for a 30-year-old truck, but of course it has its imperfections. It's nice enough that it's a good starting point for getting creative, but it's not too nice that you wouldn't want to touch it and just leave it original. So that being said, I thought there was some definite room for improvements. I came across a set of full power bucket seats out of a Chrysler Crossfire, believe it or not, and after comparing dimensions, especially width, they're very similar to the factory buckets, so this is going to be a very cool upgrade. In addition to all of the expected power adjustments, what's really unique about these seats is that the backrests also fold forward electrically. So just like the factory buckets, I'm able to fold the backrests forward so I can get access to the area behind the seats. Now don't get me wrong, I love the all red interior, but when I saw the Crossfire seats, obviously being more of a dark graphite color, I thought it also might be kind of cool to do a two-tone color theme. So to tie this color into different areas of the interior, I'll be installing an early second-gen Blazer full-length center console, which is a huge upgrade over the first-gen short console. You get a lot more storage, there's two cup holders, a taller armrest. It's just an overall better setup. I also have some leather door card inserts from a first-generation Oldsmobile Bravada, just to give a little bit of an extra luxury touch along with that GMC Typhoon steering wheel I already have in the truck. The most amazing thing about all of this is that despite coming from 3 different vehicles, these parts are all the same color. It's shocking how close they are to one another. I'd like to extend a big thanks to Lexol Leather Clean Air Conditioner for being long-term supporters of my channel. I've been using their products in my personal vehicles for many years now, so it really is an honor to be able to work alongside them on the YouTube side to develop some fun content. Be sure to check out Lexol's current line of product offerings at O'Reilly Auto Parts, and if you decide to shop online at O'ReillyAuto.com, don't forget to take advantage of the exclusive discount code SOBKyle20, which gets you 20% off of purchases of $100 or more. Thanks so much. Alright, so without further ado, let's take some stuff apart. Both seats are held down by 4 nuts. There's also an electrical connector on the driver's seat for the seatbelt warning indicator, but before I can get access to the nuts, there's various trim covers that have to come off first. I really couldn't remember if there were any wires attached to the driver's seat or not, but it's just the seatbelt, the little warning indicator right there. So just 4 nuts and the driver's seat lifts out. I went ahead and did a quick vacuum just so I'm not working in total filth. I'm still trying to weigh the pros and cons of trying to salvage this carpet or scrap it and just get new carpet. But let me go ahead and show you guys my tentative plan for mounting these Crossfire seats. Here's what the rails underneath the seats look like. The seats mount flat to the rails, and then the rails have different contours and stuff to go where they need to go in the floor pan. So kind of what I'm thinking is going to be the easiest way to go about this, or the best way to start this process, is to remove the rails off the seats, mount them back in the truck, test fit the seats, and see where they lie, because it would be really nice if I can just bolt the Crossfire seats directly to the rails. It's not going to be that easy, but I should be able to have a good idea of where the seats need to sit and make additional brackets and supports as needed. Now let's set one of the new seats on and see how it lines up. Now I just need to figure out where these are going to mount, because of course the rails don't match up with the stock S10 rails whatsoever. But one nice thing about these seats is that the rails are very flat. So I think I'm going to span 2 pieces of metal across the stock brackets to tie them together, and then set the Crossfire seat on top of those and fasten it. Now I'm going to go ahead and drop in the Blazer console and see where that sits. This console is like a perfect fit with these seats. From this side, you can see just how well the 2nd gen console fits with the contours of the floor pan in the 1st gen. I've got to adjust this some more, but I'm pretty excited about that thing. I went ahead and got the passenger seat in place so I can work through all my measurements and kinks and hardships, all of that fun stuff, just so when I show you guys the step-by-step breakdown of what I did on the driver's side, it'll hopefully be a little bit more, streamlined. But anyway, check this out. This is awesome. I've already hooked up some power leads so I could test the motors, and everything works fantastic. They are actually quite comfortable. They're a little bit tighter than I thought they were going to be, but I think it's going to be just fine. This is really cool. I actually ended up mounting the Crossfire seat directly onto the stock S10 seat rail so I can maintain the manual slider function, and I'll explain why a little bit later. You probably already saw that little lever that's in front of the seat down there, but now that the passenger side is in place, I'm going to turn my attention to the driver's side and show you exactly what I did. Instead of trying to buy some universal rail kit or whatever, I figured I would try my hand at making something. So this will end up being my rail adapter kit, I guess you could say. So I cut 4 pieces of steel and drilled the necessary holes. I've already done all of the initial measuring and test fitting on the passenger side, so again, making this filming process a little bit simpler. So I have the big rails front and back that tie the stock rails together, and then I have smaller pieces of steel on the outsides that serve as spacers so I can keep the bottom cushion nice and level, and they give a little bit of extra rigidity on the outside since this piece comes past the stock S10 rail a little bit. So now I have to modify the seat ever so slightly, and then we can move on to test fitting. There's really no right way to go about doing this. Everybody's gonna have their own opinions, and this is custom. You just gotta figure it out as you go. But in case you're wondering still why I mounted the seats to the S10 rails, or I'm adapting them, is that I wanted to try to retain the factory slider function. So as it is right now, the stock rails are slid all the way back and the seat is all the way forward via the power functions. But because I have that lever, I'm able to push the seat almost all the way up to the dashboard to really open this area up and make it super easy to access the back of the cab. To be honest, comparing dimensions between these seats and the stock seats, and actually sitting in this for a little while, the height differences between the two setups really isn't all that different. It's honestly negligible. When you're sitting in it, there's so much legroom, and I still have plenty of headspace, so it's actually working out pretty good so far. The only modifications that I need to do to the seats is to cut out these little brackets right there. You see how the little tab underneath is bent downward? I need that tab to actually be bent back up in line with the rail so I can mount it flat. So nothing a little grinding wheel won't take care of. Also, since these are powered and I can't easily, move the rails where I need to move them to make sure I don't damage anything and can actually install things correctly, I'm just hooking up the power and ground leads to a 12-volt battery. Works pretty good. Now that's what I'm talking about. These seats look so cool. I will say, installing the driver's side was way more difficult than I thought it was going to be. I figured I was going to make it easier on myself by doing some work beforehand and making those brackets, but there were quite a number of differences between the stock S10 seat rails on this side compared to the passenger side. The inside rail closest to the console was actually about an inch shorter, which, in order to get this fitting right, I had to lengthen it. Here's what the back setup looks like. Again, stock S10 rail right there and over there. The Crossfire rail on that side sits directly on top of the stock rail, while this one, because it's a wider setup, actually overhangs the stock rail. That's why I had to make some metal plates to kind of bridge everything together. Then I have that smaller plate right here just to give it some extra rigidity. So I've got the two plates attached to the stock S10 rail right there, and then in the Crossfire rail, you can't see it right now, but there's actually this little metal dowel pin sticking down, and I drilled a hole and used that as like an alignment pin. There's one over here and one over there, so if I have to take the seat in and out, it makes it easier installing it because I can just slide those dowel pins in and then start bolting everything up after that. Also, inside the rail there, you could probably just barely see it, there's a bolt attaching this side as well. That S10 rail was the one that was about an inch too short, so I cut another plate or piece of metal and welded it to basically lengthen it out. So this is actually thicker than the S10 rail, so with everything bolted up, this is extremely sturdy. Thankfully, the front wasn't near as much of a headache. It was basically the same way I did the passenger side, so it didn't take near as much time as the back did, but the principle is the same as far as where I put bolts and where I secured things. Same two-piece metal design, the extra little reinforcement piece at the outer edge, so it worked out pretty good. I still have a ton of interior work to do, so I'm going to leave the seats as they are right now until I start gutting the interior back out. Later on, I want to clean up the brackets that I made, repaint all the rails, and make everything look really nice. I don't know if you noticed or not, but I was also able to reuse the little covers that went over the nuts and studs for the factory S10 rails, so that's able to look pretty clean. I'll still use the S10 seatbelt buckles because the clasp is a different style. It doesn't match the ones that are on these seats. These just unbolt from the side, so no big deal. By now you have a pretty good idea of what the second generation Blazer console looks like in a first generation S10. I'll end up installing it off camera. If there's any interesting tidbits that I come along on the way, I'll be sure to mention it in the next video, but it seems fairly straightforward. This bracket needs to be attached to the body somehow because there are clips in here that would clip into the top of it. It sits in that opening right there, so I gotta figure out how to attach that. And then back here, there's a long piece of metal that curves, and down in the bottom there's two holes, and that would attach to 2 points in the body like you see right there, but that was for the original console, obviously, so I'm gonna modify that to hopefully attach to that and make it super simple, but that's gonna be a really nice upgrade. Lots of storage. Got, I guess that's a cassette tape holder. Maybe repurpose that into something. 2 cup holders, chain storage, and extra storage up there, so that's pretty sweet. All in all, I'm really surprised these fit as well as they did. They ended up sitting a little bit more this way than I thought they would, which is giving me a little bit of a clearance problem. It's not a huge deal, but that bolster is contacting the armrest right here. It's the same way, driver and passenger side. I will be taking the truck to a local upholstery shop pretty soon because if you didn't already know, there's little Chrysler wing emblems embossed on the headrest, so I'd like to get that section replaced and maybe do like an embossed Chevrolet logo or an S10 logo or something. I'm not sure yet, but I'm gonna see if maybe they have a creative solution for maybe trimming this bolster back or something and giving me a little bit more room. Again, not the end of the world. Everything else fits fantastic, so for just making something work, I don't think you can ask for a much better situation than that. The Bravada leather door card inserts are going to go in place of this cloth panel, so that'll kind of give you an idea of how the colors are going to be tied in. Those are really, really nice. Like, all of this is just in phenomenal condition. That being said, let's go ahead and give all of these new leather goodies a thorough cleaning condition. Properly caring for leather upholstery, whether it be automotive or otherwise, will ensure a supple look and feel for years to come. Lexol's leather cleaner and conditioner deliver consistent results time and time again. When used on a semi-regular basis, they help guard against premature wear and cracking and help maintain a like-new look and feel. It can even be used on older leather to rehydrate and give it a new lease on life. The 2-step process starts with a thorough cleaning to remove any dirt and grime, followed by the conditioner. My favorite thing about this stuff is that when you're done, there's no lasting greasy residue. If you haven't had a chance to give Lexol a try, I highly recommend giving it a go. I put a couple of links in the description if you'd like to learn more and pick up some for yourself. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel, it really means a lot. Well everyone, that's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you haven't subscribed already, consider doing so because there's a whole lot more content where that came from. The S10 is really coming along. Also, make sure that notification bell is selected so you can get properly notified of all of the new uploads. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.